welcome back to the Nordic Sound Channel. As always, I am your host, Jameson Foster, and today we are joined by the guitarist for Iotunn, who will be playing at Midgardsblot this year, Jesper. Jesper, would you like to say hi to everyone?
Yeah, hello everyone.
And Jesper, where are you calling in from?
From Copenhagen.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So another, yeah, we don't have nearly enough Danes, as I was just saying on this podcast. So I'm
Yeah.
glad to put another one up on the board.
Perfect.
All right. For those of you who've been around the channel for a bit, you're probably more than familiar with the festival Midgardsblot that happens in Horten, Norway every summer. And they recently did their first round of band announcements, and I was absolutely ecstatic to see that Jötunn was on that bill, because as I was just telling Jesper, I had just discovered them about a month beforehand. I listened to
Yeah.
their album Access All Worlds, got super into it, and then all of a sudden they're playing at Midgardsblot. So that was a beautiful coincidence. So Jesper,
Yeah.
as the guitarist, I would love to hear sort of your background as a musician, how you
Yeah.
got into music, where you started, and how you got into the beautiful world of progressive death metal.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, it's quite a long story, but
Go for it. That's why I have you here.
we're two guitarists in our band, and the other one is my older brother. And so I would say if I had to make like a kind of big bang for my musicianship journey, it would be when my brother was around 7, 8 years old. He came back with an old cassette table with Metallica and AC/DC and so on.
Awesome.
And I was around 3 or 4 years old, but that's my first memory of music.
Mm-hmm.
I think actually I have an idea that it was like the intro of Sad But True. So yeah,
Mm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and I have this kind of idea of me as a very little kid, just feeling that wave of energy. So,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, so those bands, AC/DC, Metallica, Iron Maiden, Guns N' Roses, all those classic big bands, kind of defined the music taste for my brother and I back in childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was around 9 years old, I think I began to play classical guitar actually.
Oh, cool.
So the first, yeah, 6, 7 years of guitar playing was classical music, and
Mm-hmm.
then later on I got my first electric guitar and began to play in bands and found out that it's nice to play classical music by yourself, or also actually in a guitar orchestra, classical
Mm-hmm.
guitar orchestra.
Yep.
Uh, Back then, but playing loud with guys in a rehearsal space was, yeah, that caught my attention. So
Whole different feeling. It's
whole different
so
feeling.
much more visceral. It's
Yeah,
also
yeah, yeah,
fun
yeah,
to
yeah.
play with people in a room. Yeah.
It is. So yeah, that's like a very short version, perhaps. But then all kind of bands throughout the years,
Mm-hmm.
and then at some point, the forming years of what became Jotun began, you can say, and that was like 12 years ago or something.
Oh,
Uh,
you've
uh,
been a band for 12 years?
yeah, but that's also a long story
Okay, yeah,
because
yeah. We can get into that when we talk
yeah,
about the actual band, if you want. Because that's actually really, now things are making sense, because that Access All Worlds is incredibly polished. Like for so anyway, so we'll get into that.
yeah,
Um,
we'll get into that. But yeah, the defining music for me has been like classical symphony music and those big hard rock heavy bands
do you have a
at the
favorite?
beginning.
Do you have a favorite orchestral composer or a favorite symphony?
Yeah, I do, but I think it's like the Czech composer called Dvořák,
Oh,
and
yes.
his New World Symphony
Mm-hmm.
is probably my favorite. But the Peer Symphony with Edvard Grieg is up there.
Oh, oh, beautiful. Okay, you are. So I don't know if you
So
know this, but my master's degree was at a conservatory.
Yeah. All
I,
right.
I
Yeah.
play the upright bass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I played in orchestra. Me and my wife actually met playing Dvorak's Stabat Mater.
Wow.
And yeah, but we also did the New World Symphony, and where
Wow.
bassists are very naked at the beginning of the second movement, I think we start, and then
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
also my master's thesis was on Greek. So
Wow. Okay.
you are
Cheers.
talking my language right now. Awesome, and I'm not surprised at all.
You've
Again,
got a good taste there.
yeah, I like to think so. I'm not surprised at all to hear that you have a lot of like sort of symphonic influence behind
No, no, no.
your music, because it's very. And then also just I've also gonna ask, what was your favorite band growing up? Because you mentioned Metallica and AC/DC.
Well, the most important band, and also like sometimes, and that's also my brother's. That's Metallica, because
Yeah,
it's just important on a like unexplainable level in some way. So
yeah.
and we love to still go to their concerts and have been like 20 plus times. So
Oh, dude, hell yeah. I
yeah.
was the Metallica kid growing up. All my friends would joke that I had a different Metallica shirt for every occasion.
Yeah.
So absolutely. And then
Yeah. I had
Cliff Burton's the reason I picked up the bass as a kid, just
yeah.
because I wanted
Yeah.
to do that For Whom the Bell Tolls intro.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I still remember seeing the video of him doing that shredding solo on the green, where like that one of the only live videos of Cliff playing, where his
Yeah. Yeah.
hair
Yeah.
hair blowing in the wind and he's just shredding his.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. You are taking me back right now.
Yeah.
And then so considering, I actually didn't know that your brother was in Iotunn with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so just as someone who also has a brother, but
Yeah.
I'm the older brother.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love my brother to death. I do not know if I would be able to be in a band with him. So
No.
I am very curious. I guess I'll use
Yeah.
this to sort of ask how Iotunn came about,
Yeah.
and then I
Yeah.
would love to hear more about what it's like to make music in a band with a sibling, because that's a lot of fun. That I feel like I'm gonna enjoy that.
Yeah. I think throughout the years, my brother and I have like met during the years and
Mhm.
have been writing music together. But it came about in 2011 or 12 or something that we began to. I had like made this band back in 2009. We also with Björn, our drummer,
Mhm.
still to this day. And in 11 or 12, I think we asked my brother to join on bass guitar because we couldn't find anyone. So we did that and had a lot of fun. And then he joined, uh, and at that time, I had been through like 4 or 5 years of listening very, very much to like 60s, 70s rock and
Mhm.
psychedelic space rock, all this. So the band was in many way in those like musical spheres.
Yeah. Any bands in particular?
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Pink Floyd, Black Sabbath,
Oh yeah.
Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Jimi Hendrix, all those
Yep. Beautiful.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Genesis,
Mhm.
yes, and so on. But and that before those years, it had been all about metal music for
Mhm.
me. And when my brother got in, it was kind of it led to a possibility to refine that spark for metal combined with this love for space rock music.
Okay, I'm
And
sort of seeing things come together.
yeah, and that's I would say that it's still something that's present in our music today,
Mhm.
very much. Also with the classical element, but
Oh yeah.
so I would say Jotun came about because of my brother and I like finally really saying to each other, we're gonna do a band and we're gonna do it on long term and really try to just write a lot of music and try to see where that will take us because
Mhm.
we played all kind of different music from 2009 and up until I think 14, 15. And around that time, I think the sound that you can also hear on Access All Worlds began to like present itself. And we had a another lineup
Mhm.
back then, and we the first EP we did. That's I think that's from 16. I think it came out February
Mhm.
16, and that's
And
I think that's a lot of like Jotun sounding music there.
oh yeah, and can you
So
just because it's escaping my memory, can you just say what the name of that EP is
yeah, it's
for anyone who wants?
The Wizard Falls.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome. It's just gorgeous. That's everything I want out of my heavy metal, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think that you're touching on something that's pretty important that I think, you know, I like to keep in mind that I feel like a lot of, people who are looking for content like this on YouTube or elsewhere are aspiring musicians, people who they want to do music, and they're sort of like trying to, see the journey that other people take getting into it. And I think that you're sort of demonstrating a really important part of developing your own style or your own voice as an artist. And that is sort of the ability to explore other genres.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
because you've already talked about going from Yes to Dvorak to just the death metal that Iotunn plays. Right, you're
Yeah.
spanning a whole lot right there.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we were talking about Metallica just a few minutes ago. I still remember when I was a kid and I heard that James Hetfield's like favorite band growing up was Aerosmith, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, what? That doesn't make any sense." But
That's
now
a
that I'm an
that's a
adult,
great band too.
I'm like, okay, first off, yes, I love Aerosmith, but second off, like these musicians who I respect so much, growing up, I would assume that they all just listen to metal because that's what real metalheads do. And then I grow up and I'm listening to all these interviews and getting to know all of these musicians who I grew up with and had a
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
great impact on me, and learning that they never put a fence up. Really,
Nope.
they're allowed to not like music just like anyone else is, but
Of course, yes.
always willing to explore more
Yeah.
without putting those fences up. And it's really making a lot of sense to me that you seem to have run through quite a bit of genres.
Yeah, and I think that's yeah, I totally agree because it's very much in our like band DNA because all five of us today are really like into finding new music and recommending what we find to each
Mm-hmm.
other. And when we like get together to rehearse for a festival or something, we like to have at least one evening just with 10 hours of music listening and talk about the music. And so
Mm.
and I think it's like when I told you about that sad but true experience from
Mm-hmm.
way back, I think you can still find that experience even though the years has passed and so on, when you like okay, this band is fucking good,
Yeah.
and or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
So and for me it's I really don't care about genre. There's a
Mm-hmm.
few genres I'm just like really not into,
Mm-hmm.
but most music, if it's good, I really enjoy it and get
Mm-hmm.
inspired by it. So, and that's the same with like composing music. Why don't just go like nuts and have no rules because that's fun, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because yeah, I've just learned as I've grown up, I've become less interested in genres and more interested in just the musicians themselves.
Yeah,
Um,
quality, like
yes, exactly. So for instance, even though I'm an American bluegrass musician, I actually for a very long time, just because of the way that this music was when I was growing up, country music I could not listen to just because of all the connotations and everything that I grew up with. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
all it took was this one American musician named Coulter Wall,
yeah.
where I listened to him and I was like, okay, this musician I really dig. And then all of a sudden, it made me just through him like appreciate the wider world of like classic country music here in America
Yeah,
and
yeah,
falling in love. And of course, this goes out saying everyone loves Johnny Cash and everyone loves,
Of course.
all of these classic. I mean,
Yeah.
like everything beyond them, right? And it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
just funny how, I don't know if you feel the same way, but there are just certain musicians that just like they speak to me through their music, and then I just become really engrossed in what they do and
Yeah, yeah,
sort
yeah.
of learn through them, like that sort of genuine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
It
great.
was quite funny. Spotify it does these ra- the year wrapped or something,
Yeah, yeah.
and I found out that the artist I'm listening the most to is Bob Dylan.
Oh, ah, one of
So I,
my favorite musicians of all time.
so, but but yeah, actually it wasn't a surprise because I really love his music. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
do you have a particular era of Bob Dylan that you love, or
yeah, it's the early records.
yeah,
Yeah, the times they are changing and freewheeling, I think, is my favorite albums. Yeah.
God, man, you are just hitting all the buttons for me right now. I don't know if you like studied up on me or something before you came up here, but dude, literally, that whole Freewheelin' Bob Dylan album like changed me as a musician. He's the reason I learned
Yeah,
finger picking.
yeah, yeah.
I play
Cool.
country blues.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he got me down that rabbit hole, same as what I just said Culture Wall did with country music. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just love that you brought up Bob Dylan. I
That's good.
freaking love that guy. And then
Yeah, me too.
Masters of War is one of the very first metal songs ever written, and I will
Yeah,
die
that's
on that hill.
yeah, and it's an extremely relevant song today. So
Yes, yep. And then just
yeah.
God, man, we're not going to turn this into a Bob Dylan episode.
No.
Maybe sometime in the future.
Yeah,
So
we can get back to that.
yeah, so when you and your brother formed Iotunn, and then you had the drummer come in and the bassist, was there sort of a, I don't want to put this like into business terms like a mission statement, but was there some sort of, when you guys formed a band, did you have some sort of idea in mind of what you wanted to do, or did you just sort of let it just happen? I'm curious about that because you guys have a very coherent aesthetic, and I'm
Yeah,
curious if that just came about from playing, or if you were like, I want a space metal band with a dope old Norse name and it's gonna rock. Like guys,
I think it's a combination of like
yeah,
it just happened, but still with a lot of thought behind it in some
yep,
way,
mm-hmm.
in some. But yeah, like I said before, when my brother joined for those few gigs on the bass guitar, and we asked him like, can you please but just join the band? I think it was quite quickly after that that he said that, okay, I really love all this space rock and atmosphere and so on, but we need some metal edge to it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's started the whole process with me opening up about, okay, for me personally, let's go on this travel and refine
Mm-hmm.
uh, the metal spark again, like uh, after all these years with 60s and 70s rock music. Uh, and then it's just a matter of years of really working with a lot of material and writing
Mm-hmm.
very, very as a lot of music.
Yeah.
So and in this process, I really believe if you spend time on something, you get better at it. And that's
Mm-hmm.
also if you write like tons of riffs, there'll just be some very good ones in that like yeah among those.
Oh yeah.
So and then it was just it's always a matter for when we like if you take all the riffs on Access All Worlds, for example, it's like I don't know how many there is, but let's say 30 or something. Then that's the top of the iceberg. So you have at least 10 times as many below the surface, which was just like
Yeah, that's it's funny
put
because
aside.
let's just say that on average a guitarist will, like, a 10% of a guitarist's riffs will be worth putting on an album. Well, if you only come up with 10 riffs, that's one
That's
riff.
one riff.
If you come up with 100 riffs, that's 10. But wait, if you come up with
Yeah,
1,000 riffs, you've suddenly got 100 riffs, and that's like, if you really want to stretch it, that could be quite a few
yeah.
albums.
Yeah,
So you just constantly got to be writing and practicing and you
yeah.
know you might remember from your classical guitar days as teachers of classical music like to say messing around isn't practicing
No,
or
no, no, no.
there's a line and I'm always saying like maybe but I feel like if you can find a way to do it both at the same time where you're practicing but then you're also coming up with like these awesome things that you can keep in your back pocket,
Absolutely,
best of both
absolutely.
worlds. Yeah.
And back then, when I was like at my peak with the classical guitar, I still play a lot of classical
Mm-hmm.
guitar still today. But back then, I got at a level where it was like very like hardcore professional training, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think also what really like spoke to me when I back in high school or something when I met these other metal guys who just I came up with my classical guitar and they came like, "Do you want to play electrical guitar with us?" Okay, let's try. And then I was like presented to this world of having fun with creativity and messing around with ideas and all this. So I think I'm like made up of both worlds, like
Mm-hmm.
the the hardcore part and the messing around.
Great, man. Yeah. And then so are you the one sort of behind the orchestration on the albums, like the technical side of it? Or is that more of a team effort?
Like the like studio technical or music
So
wise.
am I yeah, so more studio, like there are some like synths and like some really beautifully composed parts that go with the album. And I
Yeah,
was just wondering if you're
yeah,
behind
yeah.
that with the classical background.
Like the process of creating YouTube music is often that my brother and I
Mm-hmm.
lay the guitar foundation,
Mm-hmm.
and our whole philosophy behind that is that when we feel like just like listening to a classical symphony. So if we listen to all the guitar parts and layers from start to finish, and we like, okay, that's a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Then he presented to Björn, our drummer, and Jöun and Eskil, and uh, and then the whole like effects and synth parts. That's in the very end,
Mm-hmm.
and often is it's like we talk about effect ideas and synth ideas, but it's often the Björn who make the effect parts and
Mm-hmm.
my brother who play synthesizer.
All right, cool. Thank you for getting through my question to what I was really trying to ask. I was tripping on my words. I'm
Yeah.
so happy that you were just like, oh, I know what he wants. I appreciate
Okay.
that. Yeah, yeah. So, oh God, that's so cool. So before Access All Worlds comes around, you guys are a band for about a decade. What are you doing in that time period?
Yeah. Well, I started the band in 2009,
Mm-hmm.
and that's back when with all the space rock and so on. Um, and then we wrote like a lot of music with the former lineup. That's before Eskil and Jon
Mm-hmm.
joined, and that the big fruit of that work was our The Wizard Falls EP,
Mm-hmm.
and that's in 16. And then in 17 we parted ways with our former singer,
Mm-hmm.
and Björn Jensnira and I went on with Iotunn.
Mm-hmm.
And then after, I have to remember correctly, I think about 10 months or something, we asked Jævn if he wanted to join
Mm-hmm.
the band. We sent him I think we sent him 3 demos,
Mm-hmm.
like drum guitar demos, which came to be on Access.
Okay.
I think it was the end song, Safe Across, and the Tower of Cosmic Nihility,
Okay.
and the Weaver System. I think those 3, but
I just love these
I sent
names. I
those.
love these names.
Yeah. and uh, and I remember because we knew we had seen Jævn sings in a Faroese band called Hamford,
Mhm.
and we've been to like 4 concerts with them back in those days, and had been talking a bit with him, and really liked him like
Mhm.
personally and as a singer. So
Oh, he's
I
great.
sent those.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of I really like. Wow, that's a good singer. But yeah, um, we sent those 3 demos, and he wrote back to me like, I'm too busy to join this band, but I can't say no. So I think that was in like February, March in 2018, and then in June he was playing a gig with Barren Earth in Finland or something, and he
Mhm.
flew from the Faroe Islands to Copenhagen and met with us for 3 or 4 hours. And then just to lay out like expectations, uh, for example, when can I begin to work on vocals for the album?
Mhm.
Uh, and that was then in, I think, December 18, we began to like work on the vocals for Access All Worlds.
Mhm.
If my memory is correct, but I think it was something like that. And then throughout 18, the last part of 18 and the whole of 19, I think Jævn flew to Copenhagen like 20, 25,
Mhm.
something, many times, and we like wrote and recorded the album. And then Eskil joined in late 2019 on bass guitar,
Mhm.
and he wrote and recorded the bass guitar together with my brother during 2 months or something. We had a deadline. I think we had to like send our master to Metal Blade
Mhm.
or something. That was something I can remember. But yeah. So and then we signed with Metal Blade and released Access All Worlds, and that's yeah, something like that.
Well, I'm not fact checking you, so I'll
No,
let your bandmates
me
go after
neither.
you for anything. so
Yeah.
you so you finally get to doing this full length album, Access All Worlds. What was there sort of like a be something I'm curious about is so you've got this old Nordic name Iotunn, especially the spelling, and then you have this cosmic sort of aesthetic to it, and we've seen this combination of like you know old Nordic stuff plus interstellar travel quite a bit, and I was curious, like, is there what's sort of your approach to like does the name have anything to do with the aesthetic that you still go for, or is it just a cool ass name and you just wanted to keep it around? Because I love that sort of
Yeah.
experimentation
Yeah.
with take this old Nordic thing that's super not only super popular but like super awesome right now, everyone's really into it, but then look at it from a different perspective that's not just raiding monasteries and that sort of thing. Try space travel.
Yeah. 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 I think the band name has a connection with how, and we've been talking a bit about this, how we like to like approach music and what music means to us in some way.
Mm-hmm.
Like the Jotuns represent something that isn't like formed and put in a box, and culture and all
Mm-hmm.
this, something that's behind this or below this and chaotic and in directly touch with like nature and the forces that creates everything and so on.
Yep.
So I think it's a picture of how we like to, in some way, have these have like our feelings and
Mm-hmm.
like nature talk as the first instance when we create music. So it
Mm-hmm.
isn't about the compositions and how it should be and so on. It's all about what we're feeling about this. And like and in those feelings, where do we go
Mm-hmm.
when we travel with those feelings? So
Yeah.
it's again about not setting up rules or put yourself in a creative box or something. Yeah.
Mhm. I love that. I love that take. I'm so glad that first off, thanks for a great soundbite. That was a really great, like, sort of
Cool.
concise way to tell me about that, and tell us about that.
Cool.
But I actually really love that you came at that question from a different angle, where it's like most people, if I say Jotun, they're going to think of something like in the Norwegian movie Troll Hunter, where there's the where you've got the
Yeah, yeah,
trolls that are stomping around the mountainside and all of that. But
yeah.
you're coming at it from Iotunn, where it's the old way of just it's something that we don't understand. Or something that sort of
Absolutely.
defies, basic laws of definition or whatever. And so, look, I had never even considered that before when I was thinking of, your band's name and your music.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, that's awesome, especially with the different spelling that sort of sells that, the more archaic
yeah,
or
yeah.
arcane spelling of it.
And that's all. I think it connects also with like for me, Access All Worlds is just as much about traveling inside as outside. So
Awesome.
again, it's about it's about how you approach things.
Mhm.
Um, how many worlds are you actually able to access? You know?
Yeah,
Um,
dude, that's so awesome. I love
yeah,
that. So,
yeah,
is there a way that you're sort of exploring that? Are you exploring that idea musically, or is that more of just an ideology that guides you? Because throughout this album, when I'm listening to it, I feel like I'm going to a whole bunch of different worlds. I can see
yeah,
the
yeah.
stars flying by as you're just going from track to track. So, is there a way that everything that you're talking to me about, like, shows up in your writing process, or at least in the music that eventually ends up on the album? I guess the more direct way for me to ask that is how do you try and express what you just said musically, if at all?
Yeah. Again, I think it's about in the whole creative process being very, very. It's all about being as open-minded as you
Mm-hmm.
possibly can in
Yeah.
some way. Um, and and if you see a writing process of an entire album as a journey, you have to kill some darlings and say goodbye, and that's that's always those kind of things happening.
That was so
But
heartbreaking. That was the most heartbreaking kind
yeah,
of feeling. Because you're right. You're right.
but I think it's about that open-mindedness and curiosity to do your best to access as much as possible,
Mhm.
and then on behalf of that, in some way, get that defined in an album,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
No, it does. Yeah,
Yeah,
because especially because that's where the progressive side, I think, comes into your label as like
yeah,
progressive
absolutely.
death metal, which I don't know how much say you guys get to put on that label. I know a lot of it is sort of like your producer, your record label just say progressive death metal stamp. There we go.
There's a lot of we're getting a lot of different labels on put
Yeah,
on us. So,
happens.
and I don't know. Yeah,
You just make the music and you let other people call it whatever.
yeah, and
I know.
it's
Yeah,
metal music, but it's also a lot of other things. So
yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Because something I was curious about is because this is only something I thought of is do you listen to much Enslaved, or do you have much of them, like,
yeah.
do you find yourself influenced by them? Because the only band I could really compare you to when listening to Access All Worlds was Enslaved, and I was just curious if that
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
coincidence or if yeah.
I don't know if it's a coincidence. I think all five of us actually listened to Enslaved. So,
All
and
right.
we've all seen them as play concerts also.
Yep, I just saw them a
But
couple weeks ago. Yeah,
yeah,
here in Denver.
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, they're on a US tour.
Mhm.
But it would make sense. But not like for me personally. Borgnakker, for example, is a bigger like
Mhm.
Norwegian influence to me. But
Oh yeah.
I love like Enslaved, Borgnakker, and a whole bunch of Norwegian bands. So,
Yeah,
but
because
I can see I can see why people think of in state, but I also, again, what I've read
Mhm.
and so on, people are like mentioning a lot of different bands. So,
Which is good. That's what you want, man. Because
which,
it's like
yeah,
the reason I brought up Enslaved is because I've actually met I've met Ivar on several occasions, and I've been
yeah, okay,
lucky enough to get to pick his brain about some stuff. And one of the
yeah,
one of the funniest impressions he left on me was the first time I met him was at a black metal festival here in the Grand Tetons in Wyoming. It was a festival called Fire in the Mountains, and he was helping
oh
to
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he was helping to organize
We're
it.
going to play there at some point.
Dude, please. Also, by the way,
We w-
I'm friends with the
that's on
organizer.
the
Yeah, I'm friends with the organizer,
cool.
so
Just
I will put a word
we're
in for
ready.
you. Yes,
Thank
that would
you.
be so awesome. I mean that fit you guys perfectly with the Tetons in the background flying through space. Oh, that'd be so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the first impression he left on me was this was the summer where Stranger Things was like at its peak of popularity, and
Yeah.
he was going on and on about how much he loved Kate Bush.
All right.
And I
Yeah.
was sitting there like, I never would have guessed this. But that's where that progressive side comes from. It's the fact that, when
Yeah.
you're a musician and you're listening to music, whether you want it to or not, the music you listen to sort of filters through you and then comes out
Yeah.
and mixing with everything you listen
Yeah.
to. And so the more music you listen to, the
Exactly.
more eclectic um, or the more, I don't know, just the more ingredients the dish that is your music is going to have. And so that was always a
Yeah.
lasting impression on me when he was going on about his Kate Bush record collection in his basement, and you're sitting here saying that your Spotify topped artist is Bob Dylan. I'm just sitting here like, this
Yeah.
is, I feel like people don't say I'm going to be a prog musician. You just listen to a shit ton of music and you just become a prog musician
Yeah.
because you like so much different stuff,
Yeah.
so many different styles of music.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So with Access All Worlds, we sort of talked about
Yeah.
the idea behind it. Do you have a favorite track, or maybe even just a favorite memory from recording the album? Because something that I love about following you guys on social media is you guys have a lot of fun making music together. Like it
Yeah,
warms
we
my
have.
heart. Yeah, it warms my heart.
Yeah,
So I
that's
would
good.
just love to hear more about either the process or if you have a favorite
I think
track. Yeah.
quite recently, actually, I talked with Yeon and my brother, and we were like, okay, what's our favorite part of this whole being a musician and so on. And actually, the very very best thing about it is to create the music, like working on and creating, and that's just like very very funny and nice to do. Like always, unless you have a shitty day, like and nothing comes up.
Mhm.
But those are necessary as well. So,
Yep.
but the favorite part of Access All Worlds, like the process, I think was when Yeon came to Copenhagen for the first time, and we did vocals, some vocal parts on Voyage of the Gargane 1 and Access All Worlds, the title track.
Mhm.
And to take those and like export the files and walk through the city streets of Copenhagen and just listening to that very loud was very nice. I actually think I was like dancing around. So
Oh yeah, it's
so
great when
that
you get to listen to your own music on your headphones and you're like, oh, this is kind of nice.
yeah, but that was very important to us because Yeon completed the lineup circle in many ways
Mhm.
to find a new vocalist and to find someone who is at the highest level possible. I think
Yeah, because
in
he
rock
adds
and
a lot.
metal,
he
that's
he adds
crazy. Yeah,
so much to your sound. Like,
yeah,
not to say that
exactly.
if you didn't have him, it'd be like, oh, whatever. No, like you guys, just like what you
No,
said with
but
songwriting, you have that strong foundation. But like
yeah,
then
yeah.
with his vocals, it's
But I
just
think
clicks
again,
so perfectly.
that's what's been very tough between having our former singer
Mhm.
and parting ways with him, and why this was like such a great experience to me because I think our music calls for a singer who can like express himself in many ways.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's very, very hard to find. And I'm really underlining that because I spent hundreds of hours searching for a new vocalist
Hmm.
before asking uh, Jon. So, but a favorite song from Access. Uh, that's
Which of your children do you love the most?
all of them. That's yeah. I think I really, really love to play all of them, of course, but Waves Below, I really, really love to play live.
Hmm.
Uh, I would say I don't.
All right, cool. But I mean, like you gave me Waves Below. I mean, I love that track, man. That
But
one's yeah.
yeah, okay. If I had to mention one song, it would be the title track. I
Yeah.
think that's like really, really mm, a huge rock and metal song,
Oh
space
yeah.
rock, atmospheric, just melodic, very beautiful song. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Now, please remind me because I don't have it. I don't have it up. Is that also the first track?
second,
That's what is the first track?
Voyage of the Gargany One.
That one. So here's I review a lot of music, right? So
Yeah,
I listen to a lot of music, and whenever I'm listening to a new metal band in particular, which speaking of which, you might actually be the first metal musician I've interviewed on here. So that's actually
yeah,
might be quite a milestone, but I'm not going to promise that just in case I have had one and he's like, "Hey, what about
yeah,
me?"
yeah.
But I'm pretty sure you are. Um Sometimes, especially when I'm listening to a band's very first album, I have to, or yeah, I have to accept the fact that it might take a little bit to pick up, right?
Yeah,
Like I'll
yeah.
put it on and I'll get a few tracks in and I'll be like, okay, cool. Yeah, this is nice. Yeah. With access all worlds, I remember I put that on and like within 30 seconds I was like sitting in this chair like, ah, what? Like I've got these big JBL speakers right here because I'm an
Yeah,
audiophile. I
okay.
love to make sure I've got real nice speakers, and it's just
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that scene of like that guy sitting in the chair with the speakers blowing his hair back, and like right out the gate. And that is why like that albums like that I love, because it requires no effort on my part to get into. You guys grab me by the collar and you drag me into the album. You're like,
That's what we want to do.
you're coming with us, buddy. Like that's just such a,
Yeah.
yeah. So that's just always something that I really tried to express to especially up and coming musicians, is you really don't want to make your listener work for it. I mean, maybe you do.
No,
Maybe it's a
no.
part of what
That's
you maybe it's a part of what someone wants to do. Like if they're really
yeah,
contemporary.
I
But
don't think the primary thing when creating music and doing it also for listeners
mhm.
cannot be about like figuring out the music.
Yeah.
That's not the that's it's about the immediate feelings, just like, and that's it. And then you can have all kinds of exciting layers and stuff like that, but it has to like just hit you immediately. Like that's what I loved when I heard Fade to Black for the first time, when
Oh,
uh, Fight Fire with Fire for the first time. It wasn't like, oh, I have to figure out this music. It was just like, fuck, this is good.
dude, I still remember when I bought Ride the Lightning for the first time.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to some thrash metal. I'm like a little teenager, and I put it on, and I'm like, what is this acoustic guitar doing in here? This is a
yeah, yeah,
ripoff.
yeah.
And then like
That's
30 seconds later, I'm like, oh my god! You
yeah,
just have to give it
yeah,
a
yeah,
second. But it's so funny that you just reminded me of that. The and Fade to Black too,
yeah.
that solo at the end. But what I was about to ask you is if you actually had any advice for any metal musicians in particular who were trying to get into the scene, get into a band or something like that. I was going to ask you if you had like any advice for that, but the advice that you just gave was actually pretty powerful. So if you do you want to say a little bit more on what you were just talking about? I'd love to give you an opportunity to sort of say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I think I think the most important thing is to enjoy uh, creating music and enjoy having having a second family in some way, like uh, just like have a very nice group to hang out with and
Hmm.
share life with and music with. And if those things uh, are there, I think then it's just a matter of keep on going with working very hard
Oh, dude,
throughout the years. That's it.
I couldn't agree more. I was in when I was in college, I was in a bluegrass band. And we would put on basement. That's just a thing you do in the middle of nowhere, New Hampshire. You put on basement, you do a
Yeah,
concert in a basement of someone's house.
yeah, yeah,
And it was so funny because we loved each other so much.
yeah.
The band's name was Sons Who Disappoint Their Fathers.
Oh yeah.
But the best part is our violin player, our fiddle player, was a girl named Carolyn. And
Ah.
she loved it because she would say, technically, I'm the most disappointing son of all, which is
Yeah,
like the
that's nice.
funniest thing in the world. But she's great. I love her to death. And I love what you're saying because we played music together in different configurations for years. And not once did it ever feel like work because it felt like we were just showing up to hang out and do what we loved with people
Yeah,
that
yeah,
we loved hanging out with.
yeah,
And in that way, of course, you get into disagreements like any healthy family will. You don't want
yeah, yeah,
everyone agreeing with each other all the time. That would get creepy. But
yeah,
like, it's so important to, you're right, enjoy the process.
yeah,
Because if
yeah.
you're not enjoying
Absolutely.
the process, that's going to come through in the music, at least in my opinion. Like,
Yeah,
I can tell when someone's not enjoying music and they're doing it because they think that it's going to make them money. Like, you can usually
yeah,
just
and
hear that.
of course that if you enjoy playing music and if you enjoy like being in the company of your band and so on, then with the hard work there'll be a progression into a more professional band.
Mm-hmm.
That's natural. For
Beautiful.
us, for example, with the booking agency and label and a whole bunch of people like being drawn into this Iotunn universe in some way. And then it's a matter of like seeing that organization as something that needs to be professional and healthy as well, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be awesome people and like skilled people.
Oh,
So
exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Beautifully said, man.
yeah,
I think I appreciate that. I appreciate that, and I think a lot of the people listening might appreciate that as well. So thanks for giving that insight on that. So
of course.
Midgard's blown. You ever been?
Oh yeah, I haven't, but I've been traveling in Norway, I think 10 times or something, but I haven't been at the Midgårdsblot, and I know different people who has, and Jævn, a singer, played there with Hamferd in 3 4 years ago, I think.
Okay.
So and we know some people in Heilung as well, and so on.
Mhm.
So and everybody says it's amazing. So I'm really looking forward.
It's
Yeah,
I have only been once, but that is sort of the event that made this channel like grow. So
yeah, yeah,
I'm that's sort of like those are my roots, like as a music reviewer and stuff like that. So it's just like the best thing I can think of is this, especially with this Bob Dylan in my head, is it's just a Norwegian Woodstock. It's like it's the
yeah,
weirdest combination of like hippie shit and
yeah.
metalheads. And it
And
comes
that's perfect.
together. It is because like here's the
Yeah,
best part, right? At least last year, the thing is there's this drum circle that happens every night after the music and it goes until
oh, yeah,
sunrise. So if you're there like
yeah.
me and you're doing work and you're doing research, you don't sleep. You especially because
No,
one of the musicians at the drum circle plays the bagpipes. So you're not sleeping. And
no, no.
so but then other than that, like just it definitely, I've been to a lot of festivals in my time. The
Yeah,
the the neighborly or community aspect to Midgardsblot makes it just
yeah,
such a cool place. Not to mention
yeah,
the
yeah,
actual setting. You got the Viking mounds right over there. You're in the reconstructed Viking village. It's just like everyone's there to just have a good fucking time. And
yeah.
there were a few non-metal bands that played that even people still absolutely loved because again, they were just there for a good fucking time. It doesn't
Yeah,
really matter,
exactly,
even though they advertise as a heavy metal festival. People don't care
exactly.
as long as the vibes are good. So
But that's also
yeah.
what my impression is, that like folk music and like also like music like Heilung and so on, which
Mhm,
is also like very old Norse
mhm.
inspired and so on. I like that connection between all kinds of very interesting metal music. Also, like uh, you can mention, I think Primordial played there and Enslaved,
Mhm.
Borgnagar,
Yep.
so on. So there's a lot of atmosphere into everything they seem to do, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really just the like the everyone is just there for like the central theme people go for, of course, is the Viking thing, right? That because that's just it's
Yeah, yeah,
just fun, it's cool. But then I think it's really a great way for people who I feel it's a really great way for people to also explore other types of music without knowing that
yeah,
they're going to be exploring other
yeah, yeah,
types of
yeah.
music.
And that should be
Um,
the essence of every festival, I think.
Absolutely, because my favorite one
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that last year we had Umstammen, which is they've been in the folk music scene or the progressive folk music scene for decades, where they combine
yeah,
Swedish folk music with jazz, and
yeah, okay.
people were absolutely digging it. And I can guarantee
Yeah.
no one, if that band were to come up on Spotify suggested, I don't think anyone would have clicked on it. But at the
No,
festival, all of a
no.
sudden, everyone's opening up like, I dig this. And that's when I was, and then
Yeah, yeah,
Mirker played
yeah, yeah, yeah.
almost an entirely
I
acoustic.
I love her music. Yeah,
Yes,
really.
she's so great. She played entirely acoustic set.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, this is in the middle of,
Folkesange.
yes, one of my
Yeah.
favorite albums
Wow,
of all
that's a good
time.
record. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
I've got it on vinyl and everything because I'm a snob. Oh,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And but anyway, I think that if you haven't been, I'm really looking forward to hearing maybe I'll talk to you afterwards, see what you thought of the whole thing because it's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
such a unique atmosphere.
Let's catch up.
Oh
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm
We can
gonna
just
bother you there too. It's just my
yeah,
job.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
So
Please,
that's
please bother.
oh yeah, will
That's
do.
cool.
I'll
Yeah, yeah,
remember that. Please bother. I'll quote you.
yeah. Yeah.
And then, so other than Migar's Blood, which I'm absolutely stoked to see you guys there, and I'm sure many people
Yeah.
listening are as well. Outside of that, what are some other? Are there any other future plans for Iotunn that maybe you haven't talked about
Yeah.
yet, or
We,
maybe an album?
we're going to play in Norway this coming Friday at Kammergeddan Metal Fest.
Okay.
Uh, that's a smaller metal festival out in western Norway, southwest of
Mm-hmm.
Norway. And then we have the biggest metal festival in Denmark,
Mm-hmm.
Copenhagen.
Oh,
Um, we're
hell
gonna
yeah.
Yeah, and that's in June.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have Midgardsblod and Summer Breeze in August.
You're playing Summer Breeze,
Yeah,
dude. Hell
and I
yeah.
think we're playing Midgardsblod and Summer Breeze during like a period of a couple of days. So that's gonna be great.
That's gonna be a great week for you. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
dude, hell yeah. I
And then
mean,
we have yeah, we're working on more concept stuff, but I can't tell anything. So,
oh, okay.
but
Oh, well.
and also some music.
All right, awesome. Well, I won't press you anymore on that. I'll let you talk about that on your own time. Because
Yeah,
but the good thing, man, though, is the access all worlds that the idiom you would use in English is it has legs to stand on. That's just another way to say
yeah, yeah,
that it has a lot of layers that it's going to make it
yeah.
age well, and it's going to take a while for people to feel like they've exhausted it. So that's the thing.
And a funny thing right now, because of us going on these festivals this summer, we receive messages from people who just found our music. So you know, Access All Worlds will be new to people
Oh yeah.
whenever. You know.
That's the cool thing about like your first full length album is for a lot of people, you
Yeah,
know, like as you're growing and as you're playing more, that it's gonna be around
yeah.
for a while.
Then it will. Yeah. But we're working very hard on new music, and there's some quite exciting things coming up. So that's good.
Awesome. Well, I don't doubt it. All right, Jesper, where can people find you if they either want to follow you more or if they want to follow Iotunn more?
Uh, well, we have like social media pages,
Mhm.
Facebook, Instagram. Um, ain't that what people use today?
Yeah, and I'll link all of those down
Yeah,
in
that
the
would be
whatever.
great.
Yep.
Yeah, very cool.
And then I always like to ask this: is Bandcamp like the best way to support you guys, like monetarily? Like if they want to buy your album, is that the best place to do it? Or
Yeah,
Mhm.
like yeah, that's the
Cool.
best way. Yeah,
Yeah, I always like to direct people towards like ways
yeah,
that
that's
will
cool.
actually support musicians.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's all, you know, it's always
But in
good.
any way, you're supporting us, and
Yes,
and
just by
and
listening. Yeah.
and supporting our label also. That's
Mhm.
also important. And yeah,
All right, awesome. Hell yeah. Well, Jesper, thank you so much for
yeah, that
being
was a pleasure,
yeah,
man.
for being I'm pretty sure in case anyone comes at me, for being I'm pretty sure the first metal musician on here. It's been too long because especially that's where I started with my love of music and so
Yeah,
it's actually
yeah.
kind of funny that it's been this long without having a metal musician on. So dude,
But
thank you.
I'm also a rock
Yeah.
musician.
Oh, well, of course, right. I'm not trying to wall you in. I'm just trying to put more achievements up on my wall. First metal
Yeah,
musician,
yeah, yeah.
gold star.
Yeah.
All right, cool.
That's
Jesper,
good.
it has been such a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Really looking forward to meeting you at
And
Midgard's Blood.
yeah,
Yeah,
see you there.
it's going to be a great time. All right, I'll buy you a moose burger.
Yeah, that's good.
All right,
Looking
cool.
forward.
Awesome.
Cool.
Well, peace, man. I'll see you later. Great
Peace.
to meet you.
Yeah, you
All
too.
right, take care.
Take care.